Hi there, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to my art room. Today I'm going to start on the prompt for the Roxy's Journal of Stitchery Volume 8 Gathered Things. And the prompt for this week is Granny Chic. Sarah talked about this book on her video and Rachel has a different one, a different volume, but I think the same people. And I've had mine for ages too. And, I love looking through it. I got this from a place called World of Books on site. And it's a secondhand one. I think it was in a library. It's got a number on it. Oh, you can't see that. There's a number there. It's got one of those library plastic covers. So, yeah, it was definitely, it was a secondhand one and it said, it was in good condition. It's sort of like a library thing here. Leeds Library. There we go, Leeds Library. So, but it was through World of Books. Anyway, I was thinking about whether I'd get some inspiration from it, and it did give me a jumping point. So if you're wondering how to tackle this prompt, just go do some research, because I was like, I have no idea. I don't know what I'm going to do. My gran immigrated from England in the early 1950s, and she's been gone around 40 years. And through immigration, she didn't bring much with her. So there wasn't a lot of family heirlooms. That, she was a young mum through the Second World War. She was widowed, brought up 6 kids on her own. And so, they didn't bring much to Australia. She came with my mum as the youngest out of everybody, and I think they came probably with the bare essentials clothing. So there weren't a lot of family heirloom antiques. And she, from my earliest memory, they didn't live in, they lived in a house when they first came here, to Australia. But my earliest memory as a little girl was her living in what we would call now a retirement village. It was property that was managed by, I don't know, the Lions Club or somebody like that, and it had a manor house on it. It was probably donated land, and I don't really know, but it had what they called in those days the matron lived there, and so she, kept an eye on everybody. And I think my gran was like one of, the first 5 units built there. So anyway, that's my memory of her there. And what prompted that memory was her button tin that I have. I remember as a little girl sorting through buttons and in this button tin, and I didn't think that I was really going to put buttons on this quilt, but I'm kind of thinking the thing that that struck me about this is that they threw nothing away. If the shirt got all raggy, they cut the buttons off and used it for a rag. Didn't use it with the buttons on. So the majority of these buttons still have a thread in them. And that's the sort of thing that I was thinking about my gran when I was going through this tin and thinking, maybe I will put some buttons on. And so, this book made me think about that, where I hadn't thought about the buttons prior. I have got some buttons. The other thing that I want this wall. I want this in my house. It's just like my favoritist page in the book. There's a couple of shots of it. I also collect roosters, and I collect roosters like that. And so, everything about it. But the thing about this page was my gran was very religious, and she had, a statue and, religious pictures, but I don't have anything like that. While I was looking at this, I was thinking about China and, you know, China plates. She had mismatched China. You know, her cups and saucers. I don't know that she had a, you know, she certainly didn't have a full dinner set because she didn't have a big enough unit. But then that sort of led me down the rabbit hole. 'Cause, you know, you start thinking and you start thinking about the next thing and the next thing. And I think on her wall she had flying ducks. You know that thing? Have you seen them? There's three flying ducks on a wall, or five, seemed to be an odd number. And I thought, well, you know, I could make them. So that's one idea. I've got a couple of buttons here that I wish I had another one, and I think I might. This is a covered button, and that's probably something that I do remember about her. There's no, you know, you sew straight through it. There's no like loopy thing. I think, do you? How do you attach that? Oh no, it must be in there somewhere. It's probably squished. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to use covered buttons. I can't decide, but I found some old buttons. They've, you know, got the bit of fluff on them. I don't know if I'm going to use buttons. But anyway, so all of those things sent me off on this funny little rabbit hole. Rabbit, you know. Yep, chasing rabbits. Oh, so the other thing that I thought about is that I remember her having I remember her having a cameo on like her coat that I obviously can't use, and possibly my mum has it, I don't know, but I was thinking that kind of reminded me of her as well. And the last thing that reminded me of her was this Scotty dog. Now, I've had this doily and I didn't think that I was intending on using it, but I remembered that she had these two little Scotty dogs on her fireplace hearth, you know, one on either side facing, I don't know, whatever happened to them. You know, I think about that now and go, oh, you know, they would be nice to have. And I think they were Scotty dogs, but honestly, I can't actually remember. They were dogs. I remember that. So I had this doily with a Scotty dog and I went, yeah, I'm going to put the Scotty dog on there. But the thing that I'm going to do first, oh, and I found this one too, you know, like I just went looking through my fabrics. You know, I found this little cherub guy. You know, he probably look all right and it will sit under a couple of categories. And this one, which is like a postcard of little buildings. And I thought, oh, that you know, they collected things. She collected postcards. I know that she did. She liked getting a postcard. Oh, this is in French. It's not in English. You know, it might still work. So for my ducks, what I've decided to do is a snippet roll. And I'm just going to pick up all my bits and pieces that, you know, I end up collecting in a scrap bowl that I haven't used in ages, and thought then what I'll do once I've sewn this snippet roll together, this is just what I'm going to do for my ducks, for my flying ducks, because I don't know how I'm going to do it otherwise. Once I've stitched all them on there, I'll then cut a template out, and you know, you'll just get bits, which I think will be quite nice. I'm going to stitch this not by hand. I'm going to stitch it on my sewing machine with what you call free motion machine embroidery. And when I've done that, harder to see on a video. I don't know whether I really want to have the machine whirring around in your ear. I think it's probably, anyway, I'll think about that one. But for now, I'm not going to. I'm just going to add bits and pieces on here, random bits and pieces in different places. I've also got this piece of old Sanderson fabric in the right colours. So I'm going to rip up a bit of this and put that on, because the ducks are sort of like a turquoisey green and a goldy brown colour, mustardy colour, and some cream brown. And I've just thought 3 somewhere on my quilt, or 5, I don't know. Yeah, that's where I was been heading. That's where I'm thinking. So I've been adding a little bit more as I've gone along. I quite liked this bit of fabric here. I like some of this old quilt. So adding some lacy bits as well. I'm getting there. But this video is going to go over a few days, because it'll take me a little while to get my snippet roll done and get to where I want to come back and then actually share with you where I'm going. All I wanted to do really at this point was tell you how I got there. Okay, I'll see you later. Take 3. Okay, so what I want to show you is this rayon thread. It had a moment, and so I've done, this is my 3rd take on this, so we're going to have another go at it. But anyway, it's quite fine. It's in this sort of like no colour green that I'm happy to have. I've got, you know, a basic cream thread in the bottom, because what I'm doing is stitching this snippet roll on just onto a piece of calico. I started stitching and that tangle just kept snapping my thread, so I just bit the bullet, broke it all off, and I'm going to have another go. So while I've recorded this 3 times, I'm going to just have another go. So you haven't seen the other 2 takes. You're only seeing this one because it's just like silly. So what I've got on my old Bernina is a foot that has like a spring mechanism. So here there's a little spring thing which allows the foot to go up and down. The feed dogs are down, and that just happens when you put that on. This is an old Bernina. I've got a new Bernina that has an electronic foot that does this. I don't like it because it thinks it's in control. I want control. So with this type of foot, you can go backwards, forwards, round and about, and you know, it doesn't worry. You might hear a bit of the sewing machine noise. I just, you know, I like trek around, you know, just wherever I feel like going. Just so long as that I've caught the fabric down. You know, you can go fast, you can go slow. If you try and jerk it like forward, back really quickly, yes, you might snap the thread, which was what was happening before, because it got itself in a bit of a tangle. But that's because the thread had come off the spool, and you know, it just became unmanageable. So I'm hoping you can hear me. I'll talk a little bit louder. Can you hear me? But what I want to do is continue to do this so you can see the stitching, but basically you can't see the stitching. I've picked a thread that's kind of going to disappear, and so that when I get around to cutting my geese, what I won't do is undermine the integrity of the stitch, because if I hand stitch this, when I cut out a shape, I'll lose some of that stitching, where by machine with this free motion machine stitching, there's enough that will help to hold it in place. So yeah, so this is pretty much how I do it. I've done lots. I've been doing a course with Anne Kelly where, you know, I've really looked at, you know, creating embellishments. So I'm hoping you can hear this. No idea how to do, I wish I knew how to record silently, but I have no idea how to do it. Oh, and the bobbins run out. Good spot to stop. You can see what I've done. Okay, so the bobbin ran out and I needed to refill it, so that's all right. But I just wanted to show you, just sort of like keeping on going. I was yelling before, sorry. Just don't know how much you can hear. I just sort of like go in this random sort of like roundabout kind of stitching, you know, just hold it. You can go really fast. When I first learnt to do this, they wanted you to do, it was called fast foot, slow hand, which meant you went flat out but moved your hand slowly. I've discovered that you don't have to do that. You can go slow. You don't have to go, I mean, I can go fast like this, but I don't have to. You know, you can go slowish. What I've researched a bit is many machines have a foot that you can purchase that's called, you know, it's called like a free motion embroidery. It's called you know, it's like got a bounce in the foot, but it means that you can make your fabric go whichever direction you want it to go in. You can make it go round in circles, you can make it go backwards, you can make it go forwards, so long as you can adjust the feed dogs. Some of the machines that I know about have a plate that goes over it, but most sewing machines have this, it's like a pogo stick, because it has a bounce in it. My old Bonina, this old Bonina, is my favourite. You know, I have the flash one, and if I want to tell you, I'm happy to go back to this old one. It just, you know, it does what I want it to do. Not all of the new electronic computerized machines, it just says, no, you have, you know, bips at you and carries on like a pork chop, which my new Bonina does. It bips at me and goes, no, you can't go in that direction. You know, it drives me insane. And then I go, I don't want to do that anymore. So I go back to my lovely old one. But I know that Janome, the older Janomes, have this spring, it's like a spring-loaded foot that just has the ability to allow you to still put the tension down on your foot, like you can't do it without it. See how this is closed? I would never go without a foot. I'll tell you a horror story. I went to a course where we did free motion embroidery, free motion machine embroidery, and the foot was open, you know, like it just had this, and I'm like, got my yes, it was this finger right here. Yes, the needle went through my fingernail. I think the teacher almost passed out. She was horrified. Sent me up to the local doctor surgery that was up the road. Didn't come with me. And I went up to the doctor's surgery with like this paper towel, with the needle sticking out of my fingernail. I'm sorry if you don't like these stories. Fast forward. When I got to the doctor's surgery, they had to pull a bit of needle out with their pliers, and it went like through the nail, and you could just see like this little blood spot here. When they pulled it out, the thread was still attached to the eye of the needle. I know, terrible. Don't listen, just turn it off. It throbbed for days. It was so, never would I go without protection. You know, some people will go, you can do this without a foot. Don't do that. And be very careful. Like, this foot is enclosed. I can't get my finger in there. Yay. Don't need to. So, what I want to do is make sure that I'm catching those edges in. And I'm just sort of like continually going backwards and forwards, round and about, catching all of the edges down so that when I cut it, you know, yes, there'll be a little bit here and there that will, you know, that might stick up and that might need a bit of something. But free motion embroidery means that I can create my own embellishments with all of these old fabrics and have them maintain, you know, some level of integrity without like completely falling apart. If you're happy to machine, don't be scared of this. I love it. You know, I can create lots of things with it. All right, I'll stop, give you a break. What I might do is I'll just show you what this foot looks like so that if you're looking for one, I know that, you know, sewing machine like Janome, lots of the sewing machine, but see what happens? It does that. And that's this spring-loaded sort of bouncing sort of foot. That's what you want to look for, that the machine does that. This foot is completely enclosed. You can get ones that are like perspex or something, like you can see through them so you can see where you're going. But you know, this is pretty good. And this is a very old Bernina. I've had it for a really long time. Actually bought it second hand. I've never had to do anything with it at all. I was lucky enough to find it. So the machine is called a Bernina Record Electronic. Doesn't do too much flash stuff. You know, it pretends to do fancy stitches. That's it. It's got a nice work surface that you can work on. I love it. But then I like a Bernina machine. So I have a more modern one, and like I said, because it's like more computer operated, it has a bit of a mind of its own, and it thinks that it needs to regulate the stitch and, you know, do all sorts of crazy things. I hate it. I hate it for this. It's beautiful for everything else, but as a free motion embroidery machine, not my favourite. So I'm going to continue to work on this snippet roll, which means that I can cut it off in places. I can hopefully do my little geese, and yeah, when I get to that point, I'll come back and talk to you then. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye. Well, I finished stitching my snippet roll, ready to do some flying ducks on the wall. So it's all stitched down, as you can see. The stitching is there, but it's really made it just feel like one piece of fabric. I didn't pad it out. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to add that bit of bulk to my quilt. So now I've researched some photos of flying geese. Found a picture on Pinterest. That's done. And now I've had a go at drawing it, and I thought it would take me a couple of goes. What I did was I ruled the measurements, so I knew that I had to stay in that size range. Oh, actually did too, and I don't think I need to. Happy with that. Looks okay. Tail's a bit wonky. So what I'm going to do is I've got this tracing paper, and I'm going to trace my drawing. Don't need to do it again. Once is enough. And then I'll show you how I'm going to work out where I'm going to cut it out. So this is slightly different to some of the other things that we've been doing, but it was just me getting inspired by a bit of granny chic. As I said earlier, I'm pretty sure my gran had a set of these at her place, and if it wasn't her, it was somebody else in my past when I was a little person. They were pretty popular, I think, maybe in the 50s, I don't remember. All right, now what I'm going to do is cut it out, but I need my paper scissors, for goodness sakes. Okay. And I'm going to cut it out as a silhouette that I can then place over the fabric and work out exactly which piece of fabric I want for it, and just, I'll further embellish his little eye or his feet or whatever. So I'm going to cut it just here to start with, because I want it to make it I want to have both options. So I want a solid stencil or the hollowed out part, which is what I'm thinking more about. Then I can just trace around with the iron out pen, and I've decided I'm going to go for 3. I think 3's enough at this point, but I've got enough fabric that if I want to do a little bit more, I probably can, or a couple more. They seem to fly in flocks of odd numbers on wall art. Whether they do in real life, I don't know. But in wall art, these porcelain ones, 3 seems to be the typical, flying up a wall. Yeah, I think it was my gran that had them, but can't really fully remember. But it would have been certainly in her era, that's for sure. Okay, so I've ripped it a little bit, but that's not going to matter. All right, get rid of all this. And now on this piece of fabric, I find a place for it to sit. And it might be this way. Oh, and that's like nearly going to be perfect, because it's their wings that's the darker teal colour. So let's flip this up the other way. Got a little bit of rose going on there. A little bit of tail. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I probably should have a bit of plain underneath me, shouldn't I, so you can see what in the heck I'm doing. All right, let's get organised here. that up there. And bring this back down here so you can see what I'm doing. All right, cool. So his wing shape is here. So you can see he's got to have a little bit of a red beak. You can have a little bit on the tip of his tail, maybe. Oh, let me go back to that photo and see what they actually did have. Oh no, they had brown. They've got brown on their ends of their tail and on their bottom. Bit of pale in the middle, bit of blue there. So I'll keep fiddling with this for a minute and see. I mean, this one is appealing to me because then I can have that bit of rose. I kind of quite liked it just to start with. All right, let's have another go. There's another bit of that bluey colour here. You want to see? That one's not bad either. That's two. And now a third one. Woohoo! I've actually even probably got enough of this. Oh yeah, good. All right, good. All right, now an iron-off pen will be very helpful. Cool. So what I did on my other pieces of embellishment was I machine stitched around it, and I just have to think about whether I'm going to do that with this one. But what I'm going to do now is just trace around this and then cut it out. Probably won't see that really well, but I'll try. That's just his foot there. Oh, it's a rainy all day today. We went back to the depths of winter. We were getting a little taste of spring there for a minute. And it's cold outside and it's wet. All right, let me see if I got all those bits in. Probably could have a bit better line here. Yep, good. All right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to stitch this line around here with the machine so that when I go to cut it out, I'll know exactly where to go. So I'll be back once I've done that. You probably don't need to be subject to me stitching on the machine again, that's for sure. I'll be back in a sec. The machining of the geese is done. I just chose a brown rayon thread to do his outline, and I'm not going to do too much more than that till I get to sort of maybe doing a bit of hand stitching. That's an upside down one. Cool. All right, I'll cut it out. I sometimes track backwards and forwards if I feel the shape got a bit weird. That's just what I do. I'm not trying to make this, you know, completely representational of what a flying goose looks like, flying duck. But I just want to give it that you know, the idea of it. So I'm cutting as close as I can to that brown stitching, just leaving, you know, a couple of fibres really, because I don't want it to I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose the shape of it. Bit hard for you to see, but maybe once it's cut out you'll get the gist of it. His duck bills went a bit weird. Harder to see smallish details. So if you're really wanting to, you know, get it exact, you might have to try a different method. Sometimes it's easier to stitch it on this side, on the plain side, so that you can actually see where you're going. If you can trace it on that side with a darker pen, easy to see. But, you know, looks like a flying duck. I think it looks like a flying duck. And I've still got these nice little bits of, what do you call it? Snippet roll. Gosh, sorry. My brain left then. That was a bit weird. Eyes a bit wonky, bills are a bit wonky, but I might be able to tidy them up with a bit of hand stitching. So when all else fails, I'm still going to hand stitch. This is probably not going to be up everybody's alley, not all people's cup of tea, but I just thought it's the way I wanted to do it and I would share it with you. I've done a lot of this free motion embroidery, so yeah, I'm not scared of it, and I figure if I can't mess it up too much, I can, if I do, I can always try and fix it or ditch it and try it again. But a little bit of practice goes a long way when you're first heading down this road on a bit of scrap till you get the idea of the shape. I find that having drawn it, oh, this is funny, it's almost like a bit of feathery wing. Bit of an odd face, but that's all right. Two. What was I saying? I don't know, lost it. Lost my train of thought. Oh, you know, having drawn it and drawing it a couple of times, tracing it, your hand sort of gets a bit of muscle memory so that you can kind of vaguely remember the shape, and using the machine like a pen. And I track around it. Don't worry if I go off the lines a bit. It doesn't really matter for this. For me, this doesn't matter. Like I said, might not be up everybody's cup of tea, but I like the fun of it. And what I like is actually creating my own piece of fabric. I've got a feeling that I don't know, maybe didn't curl that tail properly. I love making my own fabric, bit like we do with slow stitching, creating that background, canter stitching it and making it a whole new piece. He's got a funny bit of eye and a bit of leaf sticking out over his nose, but I'm all right with it. I think it'll look fine. I've got this nice bit of snippet roll left to do something else with. And let's see how these guys look when they get on the quilt. So I don't really know where I want to put them yet. I might have to see how long I've been chitter-chattering away to you with this process. I'm going to drop everything now. And but this is what they look like on the white. If I could just move everything, that would be great. But I've just got a collection here going now. I need to roll this so that I can move it over far enough. Oh, lordy, you're not going to believe that. That were the little pins and the lid was on. Whew. Thank goodness for that. But I quite like these. How nice do they look? They look like they're flying on the wall. No, I think they go this way. I think they go... Oh, I don't know. I have to go back and have a look. Still, you can't see enough. Gosh, move over. Yeah, I like them. And, you know, just a little bit granny chic to me. Cool. All right, I'm going to go and work out... I think they're going here. I quite like them here. They're probably just going to get tacked on. What I'll do is just do that overcast stitch like I've done with doilies. I might try and give them a little bit more emphasis. But from a distance, that's what they look like. They look like, well, they look like that to me. Hopefully you can see what I can see. Cool. And yeah, so they won't have a lot more detail going on, I don't think. I don't think they need, and I think they're just going to be part of this. But whether something needs to go under here first, I don't think I want anything. You know, they stand out on the white. And so if I start adding more fabric colour, so what I might do is I might tack them on and then make a decision once we're down the track. At least they're not sitting there with pins, but quite honestly, I'm pretty chuffed with them. They look all right. You might be able to find a, you know, a pattern for a duck that you can cut out if you want to do flying ducks on your quilt. I think they'll go with the rest of the quilt. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a photo and hang it up on the wall, hang it up on my curtain, and then take a photo and see what they look like, and that might help me determine where they want to go. If I don't come back, see you later. But you never know, I might come back for 1 or 2 minutes just to show you what I've done, if I've made any changes. But I'm not really going to touch them anymore. I don't think they need any more embellishment. I think I know what they look like. I know that these are flying ducks on the wall. Cool. Hope you're having fun with your granny chic. Bye for now. I did come back, but I wanted to show you I'm not going to move them. They're staying right there. I think they look pretty good. I've added the other little bits and pieces like the Scotty dog and the picture of Marie Antoinette that reminds me of a cameo and a postcard, and my flying ducks on the wall. I've added a few more bits of lacy doilies just around the place to add to that prompt. A little bit more of my colour will be, you know, continuing, but yeah, I think they look all right. Oh, sorry, a very wibbly thing when you're holding it. I'm just trying to come in a little bit closer. So you can see. I think they're good. Hope you like them as well, but you know, it's okay if you don't. They're my other bits that I added. And where's the Scotty dog down here with a few more bits. I think I'm going to add, next to that blue wren, I think I'm going to add some of those black and grey hexagons that I've been making, you know, with my Japanese fabrics. So I think it could do with a bit of dark there. And I've added those other things. Just continuing all the time. Flying ducks on the wall. Cool. Alrighty. Hope you're good. Bye for now.